Now, the president's first news conference of the year presented a litany of outrageous moments. For example, the president used his time to target my next guest, Senator John McCain, and some of the GOP presidential candidates who have all expressed serious concerns about our approach to Iran and Syria.
Now, what's said on the campaign trail, those folks don't have a lot of responsibilities. They're not commander-in-chief. And when I see the casualness with which some of these folks talk about war, I'm reminded of the costs involved in war. This is not a game. And there's nothing casual about it. When I see some of these folks who have a lot of bluster and a lot of big talk, but when you actually ask them specifically what they would do, it turns out they repeat the things that we've been doing over the last 3 years. It indicates to me that that's more about politics than actually trying to solve a difficult problem.
Now, I assure you, Mr. President, no one on the right side of the aisle thinks of war as casual. Here to respond to the president's lecture is a true war hero himself, Arizona Senator John McCain. Senator, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be with you again.
You know, I remember during your campaign in 08, I remember there was a certain candidate, perhaps casually, certainly naively, said, Iran and Cuba and Venezuela, they're not the former Soviet, they're not a serious threat. $10 if you get the right answer. Who was that?
I think I know who it was, and I also know that after this president became president in 2009, 1.5 million Iranians were demonstrating in the streets because of a corrupt election, and they were chanting in English, Sean, Obama, Obama, are you with us or are you with them? And he refused to say a word of encouragement to those people, and we watched a young woman named Netta bleed to death in the streets in Tehran, and he said he didn't want to jeopardize his chances of negotiating with the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we know how that turned out.
Yeah, you know, Senator, look, you were in a prisoner of war camp nearly 6 years of your life. You understand. Many of the bones in your body have been broken. You suffer today the impact of your service to your country. We all, and by the way, we all admire you for what you've done, and I've been able to talk to you at length about this. Nobody talks about war casually, but Iran now has threatened a modern-day Holocaust, repeatedly saying they're going to wipe Israel off the map. They continue to pursue nuclear weapons. The president was wrong about Egypt. The Islamic Brotherhood has now been voted in. The rise of Islamic extremism around the world. What happens to Israel if they get this weapon that they seek to get?
Well, obviously, with the Iranians, even though the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff called Iran, quote, rational, they are dedicated, as they have repeatedly stated, to, quote, wipe Israel off the map. And here's the problem. The president sends his chairman of the Joint Chiefs, his national security advisor, and then leaks to the media that they are urging the Iraqis not to attack Iran. Who does that weaken? Who does that weaken? That obviously weakens the Israelis. And then Prime Minister Netanyahu comes here. The president gives a great speech to AIPAC, as he always does, and yet does not reassure the Prime Minister of Israel. And the Prime Minister of Israel says that Israel is a sovereign nation and will do whatever's necessary to preserve their security, because they don't have the capability that we do, and they're not going to wait past the time beyond which they have the capability to respond to Iran's assembling a nuclear weapon.
What do you make of the fact that this president now has, on multiple occasions, insulted the Israeli prime minister? His comments that he didn't know were being picked up on mic with Nicolas Sarkozy. I got to deal with this guy every week after Sarkozy called him a liar, leaving him in the White House. You contact me if anything new changes. And then the third time is when he asked Israel, or pretty much demanded, to stop building settlements and a return to 67 borders, something the U.S. promised Israel we'd never do.
Well, as you know, the initial demand that the Israelis freeze settlements, no demand on the Palestinians. Obviously, it's not an accident that now, over 3 years into the Obama administration, there's absolutely no progress on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. But more importantly, the message being sent in the Middle East today is America is weak, they're withdrawing, and you don't have to worry about the United States of America. Sean, when you were very young, when on Inauguration Day of 1981,
I mean, when I was very young.
Well, Ronald Reagan, now that when you were a little younger, Ronald Reagan.
Before these gray hairs that Feckle gave me. All right, go ahead.
Ronald Reagan was sworn in as President of the United States in January of 1981. Guess what? That day, the Iranian hostages, the Americans held hostage in Iran, came home. So much of this bears on the credibility of the United States of America, and I can assure you that that credibility is not where it was when Ronald Reagan was president.
Last question. We have the results in from Super Tuesday. I know you're supporting Governor Romney. Split night. I mean, he won Ohio, but not by the margin I'm sure that he wanted to win by. Where do you think the race stands at this moment?
I think it is inevitable that Mitt Romney becomes the nominee. I also fear that, and I'm not telling any of the candidates what they should do, but I fear that being dragged out to the point where the unfavorables of all three continue up, and we lose every day we lose is a day that we are not competing with the real adversary in November. And it really is troublesome to me, but it is what it is, and I hope that we can at least raise the level of the debate and dialogue.
All right, Senator, it's always good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
And that is all the time we have left this evening. As